Hi, this is David Saxon with Heap, and I have Justin Langseth from Snowflake here with me today. He's VP of Data Sharing.
Thanks, David. Great to be here.
So first, Justin, tell us who Snowflake is.
Yeah, Snowflake is a data warehousing solution that was built from the ground up for the cloud. So it's the first ANSI-compliant SQL database created since the mid-90s, and it was built from cloud principles from day one. And the real core innovation of Snowflake and fundamental architectural advantage is that the storage of data is completely decoupled from the compute that runs across that data.
Great, that's great. And one of the unique things that we've kind of invested in the partnership and for our customers also is the whole data sharing. Can you explain what the data sharing part is?
Since you can kind of think of Snowflake as a global database, it's as if we could take a single copy of database software, run it on a single server under somebody's desk, and then invite all the world's data and all the world's users to that single database. And if you could do that, you could analyze your own data in that database, but you could also just grant access to other people or other companies to query some secure slice of your data if you wanted to. And that's basically what Snowflake is. It's a global database that any company can put data into. Normally you query your own data and have access only to your own data, but Snowflake data sharing allows you to open secure doors and windows between different companies' data sets. That allows them to kind of query their own data, query the other data that they've been granted access to from another company, and most importantly, join those two data sets together using those same compute engines, because that compute engine can read both my own data as well as data stored by another customer if that secure access has been granted to me.
That's great. And there's been a lot of success. I mean, compare you guys to the traditional kind of data warehouses that you guys are definitely kind of like took it to the next level with the innovation and everything. So, why are your customers kind of starting to move over into the Snowflake paradigm? Is it because of this data sharing and because of how you set it up, or are there other things out there as well?
Yeah, initially it was because of just the cloud adoption. So companies were deciding over the last 5 years to finally go all in on cloud. They realized on-premises colo was just not going to be the thing they wanted to keep maintaining in the future. And it's taken the last 10 years for people to really kind of figure that out. So Snowflake was started at a very fortuitous time when major companies were starting to really make that decision of, okay, we're going all in on cloud. And that meant that they had to get all their systems eventually to the cloud. And the data warehouse has traditionally been one of the largest on-premises systems that they have to build and maintain. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, companies like Heap and others were growing very, very quickly, many of them in hypergrowth. And one of the core aspects of the cloud that Snowflake benefits from is this core scalability of both the storage and the compute layer. The cloud providers can bring almost infinite storage and infinite compute almost at a moment's notice, which allows fast-growing companies to store as much data as they want without having to worry about ordering more nodes or hard drives or whatever you had to do in the traditional database world. If you have more data, you can immediately store it without worrying about it. If you have more people asking questions, you can immediately summon more compute and power as many kind of SQL engines running against as much data as you want. So you pretty much have infinite scalability from both the storage and the compute perspective, which is just not possible with a physical on-premises database.
The great thing that we enjoyed since we committed to kind of like running our Heap Connect solution as a default on Heap Snowflake is benefit that our customers when they only have to pay for the storage once, right?
Exactly.
And if they have basically other kind of Snowflake instances or anything else, they don't have to replicate that cost out there. They just have to pay for the compute, which is great.
Yeah, that's one of the next kind of big core benefits of Snowflake is beyond the cloud nativeness of it, the fact that when you adopt Snowflake, some of your data may already be in Snowflake. Mm-hmm. So if you're using Heap already, but you're using an on-premises database or some other database, when you adopt Snowflake, your Heap data is just already there. So you don't have to worry about moving an ETL process or connecting to an API or loading the Heap data into my database. It literally, I can call Heap, and a few minutes later, my Heap data just magically shows up inside my Snowflake database that I just maybe turned on myself a few minutes ago. Yeah. And you don't have to do anything, and you can just query that. And to your point, you don't even have to pay to store that data because Heap is already paying to store that data. You don't have to copy it. It gets stored once. Whoever's storing it, it stays securely encrypted in that data owner's account. And the storage is paid for once, regardless of how many different people and different companies are querying that data.
That's great. That's great. Now, you made the comment, which I agree, is the industry is definitely moving into the cloud data storage, and we see that accelerating throughout. From our perspective, we have a lot of our customers. Obviously, the core of what Heap does is the data collection and the analytics and everything. So all that rich behavioral data. Are you seeing kind of a shift in kind of like from a traditional standpoint or across the whole enterprise, kind of behavioral data kind of across all their applications being kind of like a rise in that uptick?
Oh yeah, I mean, all data around customer journey, customer 360, like this has been a core data warehousing concept for a long time, is let's try to create a customer data warehouse. So we're seeing lots of innovation on that front as people move their applications to use multiple SaaS vendors. Snowflake ourselves, we don't have any servers. That's our own servers anywhere. It's all in the cloud, and it's all different SaaS applications that we use to build and not to build for the engineering perspective, and also to manage and run Snowflake's business and service. So everything's in the cloud. It's in a lot of different systems. And so to get that kind of customer 360 view of what are the customers doing when they're interacting with our application, when they're interacting with our support people, when they're interacting with our salespeople, those are in 3 different SaaS systems. So to kind of bring that together, we at Snowflake ourselves connect through secure data sharing to those different SaaS companies that are helping us operate our company. Mm-hmm. And we have them use Snowflake and securely share our own data back to our Snowflake. And then we have our own data warehouse we call Snowhouse. And Snowhouse is a combination of data that we store from our service metrics, but it's also these secure links to all these other SaaS companies that provide services to us. And then just by running Snowflake queries, we can get a complete view of what's going on with the Snowflake system, with the Snowflake user interface, and with the Snowflake customer base, all from that single Snowflake instance.
Obviously we're very excited about kind of like the continued partnership and continuing to invest with you guys and looking forward to kind of the next and greatest things. What are some of the things you see kind of from a broad perspective out there in the industry that are kind of interesting to you? Some of the things that, are kind of on the horizon where kind of, customers are doing some unique things?
Yeah, we're seeing one interesting kind of new class of company emerge, which is kind of powered by this kind of data sharing concept. And what we've called it is independent analytics vendors. So there's independent software vendors, ISVs, that we used to still, I guess, talk about.
Right.
But AVs, what we've seen is some startups and other companies basically say, I'm going to provide a cloud data service of some kind. I'm going to enrich data. I'm going to take data from my customers. I'm going to do stuff to it. Maybe I'm going to combine it with other data sources I get from other places. Maybe I'm going to apply some AI and machine learning. And then I want to share the results of that back to my customers. So they're basically taking data from lots of places, enriching it, and then sharing data back. There's been a set of new companies, for example, in the cybersecurity industry that are doing this very successfully. They're able to and Snowflake uses a bunch of these, where we share our security log data that we store in Snowflake ourselves. We share it through Snowflake data sharing to these vendors. They combine it with other signals they're seeing from other places, and they run anomaly detection and AI, and they let us know when there's some events that we need to take a look at. So we're seeing a whole class of new companies basically emerge because of the ability to so seamlessly interchange data between themselves, their customers, and other places.
One of the reasons Heap invested in Snowflake, obviously, was the whole data sharing concept. And, really, as we see in the market, the web analytics and traditional kind of analytics collection systems were kind of in the application, but we see a stronger need for people taking that data and enriching it downstream. So the partnership really is around kind of having that, grabbing that data within the application, being able to easily port it over to a data warehouse and enrich that with other data sets, right?
Exactly, because people building applications these days, they want to make sure those applications, as you know, are performant and are successful, and people can figure out how to use them, and all the great things that Heap tries to enable and make better for your customers. And so a lot of that is data from the application itself, but you have to combine it with lots of other data sets about who are these customers that are using this platform? Who are the big customers? Who are the small customers? What is the other thing? What are the other things that they've been doing with my company? And that's all stored in a customer data warehouse of some sort. So being able to combine signals from the application together with signals from lots of other places is really what our partnership, I think, is enabling for our customers, is to get that complete view of what's going on with their application, with their customer base, and even with their whole business, by being able to fuse all those data sets together, but without having to move them, and with real-time access to what's going on, not only right now, but across vast amounts of history as well.
Yeah, we definitely see that trend as well. I mean, it's amazing that I think the technology and that solution is accelerating. Companies are really quickly trying to kind of capture and keep up with the mind power, if you will, of the people that need to kind of like sift through that data and make sense of it and stuff. But you're seeing kind of like that inflection point where it's really starting to accelerate. And even within Heap, it's amazing the amount of our employees that access Heap and kind of do data analysis within our data that we're collecting.
Yeah.
It's increasingly, before it was held to kind of one entity, the IT people and the data person,
right.
but now it's like everyone in the company is really accessing these systems.
Right, and since you guys here at Heap are experts on your application and experts on the kinds of things that your customers are doing with your application, you're able to kind of bring not only your software and your service, but also your expertise to that and do some of this data enrichment yourself on behalf of all of your customers, and then share the results of that back to the customers themselves in a very continuous, real-time, and even granular manner, which if you were trying to do that by giving them PDF reports or giving them API calls, it would just be much a higher impedance kind of channel. And just by being able to share very, very raw data back and forth, because there's literally zero cost to transport it or restore it. There isn't, because it's not being transported, it's not being restored. You can just provide complete, transparent, seamless access back and forth. And that allows your customers to have a much deeper understanding of what Heap is doing for them, and for you to have a much deeper understanding of the other things going on in those customer systems. And it's actually, many of these data sharing relationships are very bi-directional. So it's not just Heap sharing data to Heap's customers, but it's Heap's customers sharing more, richer, and deeper data to Heap. And that allows you to optimize your service to really kind of wrap itself around what that customer needs and what that customer is experiencing in their business.
Yeah, yeah. And we kind of eat our own dog food here as we run Heap on Heap for our customers to kind of better understand exactly how we can make it a little bit better. Awesome. So let me, I guess one question I could ask is about, like, it's a symbiotic partnership. I think there's a lot of benefits we get as well in Snowflake also, but we are, I think one of the things I like about this relationship as it is from us delivering to you is, like, we provide a lot of kind of like opening up a lot of doors for kind of Snowflake to kind of get richer data sets, from marketing and the product people, and kind of feeding that into the systems, right?
Yeah, like getting data and analytics in the hands of new types of users who traditionally have been outside of the IT or the BI departments, starting to get them used to using analytic tooling, and when they can see their own data and do analysis against that lets them kind of dive in and start to become more data fluent. And that's good for Heap, and it's also good for Snowflake, because those same people who are now exposed to data analytics based on this data that we're sharing from Heap and Snowflake, they might start to broaden their perspective and look at other data sets and drive additional usage of the Snowflake platform as well as they bring in additional data from other places. Yeah,
I think that's the exciting thing, is really this enrichment of the, kind of like the massive amount of data that we're collecting from a behavioral standpoint, and kind of marrying that with the other data that they have around their customers and everything is just really I think it's really, we're on the forefront of kind of unleashing the power of what can be done with that, and what are the insights that people can get from that.
Yeah, I think we'll start to see a kind of a critical mass tipping point as more and more of this data from companies like Heap is being shared dynamically, securely, and in real time, again at effectively zero cost. Right. We'll see customers who are benefiting from seeing their data from Heap in this manner. We think that they're going to start to demand that other vendors make the data that they're holding on their behalf available the exact same way, just because they need to, and the cost of doing it any other way, of maintaining an API connection or loading data from an FTP or really anything, you're going to pay more to store it. And even that aside, it's just the engineering effort to build and maintain and operate and troubleshoot and deal with when data gets out of sync or disjoint. Like, we've had customers tell us about audits they'd have to do where they try to go through their database and compare it to one of their providers' databases, and they'd spend weeks and months trying to align these data sets, whereas if you're just sharing a database to another person, there's no way it possibly could ever be out of sync, because it's only one set of data. Right.
That's great. The data sharing thing is like great. We've seen a lot of benefits already for our customers. So what's next? What's on the horizon for data sharing?
Yeah, one thing that we're starting to talk about, and we've done some work on recently, is a concept we call secure joins. So if you think of the way Snowflake does data sharing, we have secure views. Heap creates secure views of customers' data and then shares it to your customers using Snowflake data sharing. We have secure functions where you can share not only data but also kind of analytical functions that run across that data. So it goes beyond sharing just the raw data to sharing interesting analytical functions. And then the third thing that we're just starting to talk about is called secure joins. And what that lets happen is two companies who have data about the same thing. Maybe it's the same person or the same company or the same, really anything. Securely be able to kind of cross-join their data, but without cross-sharing any actual PII or personal information. So if we both are trying to service the same customer, we can use a secure join to cross-enrich each other's data and improve that customer's experience, but without either of us having to actually pass the name or any other PII information about that customer between us at all. So it's some people have said that's kind of one of the partial holy grails of data sharing is if you can do this data sharing and do it very granularly and of course respect privacy and PII and regulatory concerns. That's critical, and that's always traditionally been one of the kind of drags and blockers on being able to have two companies kind of pool their data together and able to service their joint customers better has been those issues, and really the secure join concept really kind of transparently and securely makes that much more possible.
That's great. That's exciting. So we are very excited to be a sponsor at the upcoming Snowflake Summit. And we're going to be speaking as a customer. We have some of our customers who are customers of Snowflake that are going to be there and participating and everything. So we're looking forward to kind of like kicking that off. And I'm sure there's a lot more that we're working on. Some of these things that we're going to be announcing at Snowflake Summit with you guys as well. So very excited to kind of be there as a partner and help kick off. This is the first event that you guys are having.
Yeah, it's Snowflake's inaugural Snowflake Summit. So we're expecting a couple thousand people to come. And
that's great.
And really, it looks like going to be a really interesting group of folks who are wanting to talk about data warehouse, but really also very interested in these data sharing concepts, data interchange concepts. And it's a lot of combination of both technical and business people. And Heap is sponsoring and speaking. And like you mentioned, a lot of your customers are going to be there. And we think it's going to be a very interesting environment to really kind of take the next steps with a lot of these intercompany data sharing initiatives, which I think could really lead to even bigger and greater things in the future. So again, I'm very excited to have Heap participating in our event. I think it'll be very beneficial for Heap, for our joint customers, and for Snowflake too.
Yeah, it sounds great. We're excited to be there. We're excited about the continued partnership. Really appreciate you stopping by and speaking with us, and appreciate the time.
Yeah, it's always great to come visit you guys, and happy to have you as a customer and to help service our joint customers.